Airline manager Quinn Blake doubts a black woman's ID. Her secret as a Fortune 500 CEO shocks everyone. What would you do if one mistake cost you everything? Your job, your reputation, and even your sense of self. Today we're diving into the story of a man who thought his power was untouchable until a single encounter brought him to his knees. But what happened next is what truly shocked everyone and changed lives forever. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps us share these impactful stories with even more people. Now let's get into it. The airport buzzed with the chaotic symphony of travelers, suitcases rolling, announcements echoing, and hurried footsteps converging in every direction. Dr. Laura Nelson, a poised woman in a tailored navy suit, strode through the crowd with quiet confidence. Her dark curls framed her striking features, and a simple gold pin on her lapel gleamed in the morning light, a subtle nod to her success. But today, Laura sought no special treatment. She just wanted to board her flight and attend the global summit where she was slated as the keynote speaker. As she approached the first-class check-in counter, the manager, a sharp-suited man with graying temples, glanced up. His name tag read Kevin Ford, and his thin lips tightened the moment his eyes landed on her. "Good morning," Laura greeted warmly, handing over her boarding pass and ID. She could sense his hesitation before he even spoke. Kevin's eyes darted to the ID, then back to her, his brow furrowed and his lips curled into a skeptical smirk. "This is for first class," he said, his tone clipped. "Are you sure you're in the right line?" Laura blinked, her calm demeanor unshaken. "Yes, I'm sure. Here's my ticket." Kevin examined her documents with exaggerated scrutiny, flipping the ID back and forth as if searching for a hidden flaw. The seconds dragged as other passengers began to glance in their direction, their curiosity piqued by his demeanor. "This ID doesn't look like you," Kevin declared loudly, his voice carrying over the murmurs of the crowd. "And first-class tickets are non-transferable. If this isn't your ticket, you'll need to step aside." A hush fell around them. Laura's jaw tightened, but she held her composure. "Mr. Ford," she said, her voice calm but firm, "I assure you that ID is mine. If there's a problem, I suggest you contact your supervisor." Kevin scoffed, shaking his head. "We don't need to escalate this. I've seen this kind of thing before, people trying to game the system. You can either produce valid identification or move to economy." Her pulse quickened, but Laura refused to let anger take over. "What exactly are you implying?" Kevin's smirk deepened. "I'm not implying anything, ma'am. I'm simply doing my job." A younger woman in line gasped, and an older man muttered under his breath, but no one spoke up. Laura took a slow breath, her mind racing. Years of experience in boardrooms had taught her the power of measured words over anger, but this wasn't just about her. This was about something much bigger. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor now," she said, her voice as steady as steel. Kevin didn't move. "Security," he called out instead, signaling to two guards stationed nearby. They approached briskly, their eyes shifting between Laura and Kevin. "Is there a problem here?" one of the guards asked, his tone neutral but wary. "This woman's ID doesn't match the ticket she's trying to use," Kevin said with exaggerated confidence. "I believe she might be attempting fraud." The guard looked at Laura, his expression softening slightly. "Ma'am, would you mind stepping aside with us to verify this?" Laura glanced at the growing crowd of onlookers, their faces a mix of pity, curiosity, and judgment. She knew she had nothing to hide, but the sting of humiliation was sharp. "Fine," she said, lifting her chin. "Let's verify it." As the guards escorted her toward a side room, Kevin's triumphant smirk followed her like a shadow. She resisted the urge to glance back. She didn't need to. His arrogance was loud enough to echo in her ears. Inside the cramped office, Laura sat across from the guards, her ID and boarding pass laid out on the desk like evidence in a trial. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as one of the guards typed into a computer. "Everything checks out," the guard finally said, looking up at his colleague. "Her ID is valid, and the ticket matches her information." Relief flickered through Laura, but it was short-lived. Kevin suddenly appeared in the doorway, his arms crossed and his expression unyielding. "Look, I don't know how she got that ticket, but I stand by my call," he said. "First-class tickets are for paying customers, not." Laura's eyes narrowed. "Not what, Mr. Ford?" she asked sharply. "People who look like me?" Kevin froze, caught in the weight of her words. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, the tension in the room palpable. But Kevin recovered quickly, his voice dripping with false politeness. "Ma'am, I'm simply following protocol." Laura leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. "And I'm simply following mine. You'll regret this, Mr. Ford." Her calm confidence unnerved him, but he masked it with a dismissive laugh. "We'll see about that." As Laura stood and smoothed her suit, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She stepped out of the office without another word, dialing a number as she walked. Her voice, though quiet, carried an edge that hinted at the storm brewing just beneath her composed exterior. "Helen, it's Laura. We have a situation." Lara's heels clicked against the polished tile floor as she strode back into the main terminal. Her calm demeanor masked the fury simmering beneath the surface. Every step was deliberate, a silent declaration that she would not be intimidated. The crowd had dispersed slightly, but a few lingering onlookers still glanced her way, whispering among themselves. The airport's fluorescent lights reflected off the glass walls of the VIP lounge ahead, where Kevin Ford stood by the entrance, chatting with a few staff members. His posture was relaxed, his smirk firmly in place, as if he were recounting the triumph of putting Laura in her place. Laura, phone still in hand, reached a quieter corner and spoke into it. "Helen, I need you here now. This isn't just about me. It's about the culture your team tolerates." Her voice was calm, but Helen Jones, the regional director of the airline, could hear the steel in her tone. Helen didn't ask for details. She knew Laura well enough to understand that if she was calling directly, it was serious. "I'll be there in 5 minutes, Helen said. Laura ended the call and took another deep breath. Patience wasn't easy in moments like this, but she'd learned over the years that the most profound power often came from waiting, allowing others to show their true colors before the truth emerged. Kevin glanced up as Laura approached the lounge, his smirk widening. "You again?" he asked, his voice carrying that same condescension as before. "I already told you. The VIP lounge is for authorized passengers only." Laura tilted her head slightly, studying him with an intensity that made him falter for the briefest of moments. "Mr. Ford," she began, her voice measured. "I've already proven my ticket and ID are valid. Are you now suggesting I don't qualify for the lounge?" Kevin scoffed. "I'm suggesting you take your complaints elsewhere. We have policies for a reason." Laura folded her arms, unbothered by his dismissiveness. "And what policy is that?" "The one where you get to decide who fits into your idea of first class." The staff members nearby shifted uncomfortably, clearly aware of the escalating tension. One of them, a younger woman with a name tag that read Susan, looked as though she wanted to intervene but hesitated under Kevin's domineering presence. Before Kevin could reply, a figure emerged from the hallway. Helen Jones, her sharp pantsuit immaculate, her expression one of controlled fury. Her presence commanded immediate attention, and Kevin's smug demeanor faltered. "Mr. Ford," Helen said crisply, her tone colder than the air conditioning in the terminal. "What exactly is going on here?" Kevin's face drained of color. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "Dr. Nelson," Helen said, turning to Laura with genuine warmth. "I apologize for this misunderstanding. Please allow me to personally escort you to the lounge." Lara's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Thank you, Helen, but I think Mr. Ford should explain himself first." Kevin stammered, his confidence crumbling under the weight of Helen's sharp gaze. I was just following protocol. Her ID seemed questionable, and I was trying to ensure." "Questionable," Helen repeated, her tone icy. "Dr. Nelson is one of our most valued clients and the CEO of Nelson Global Enterprises, one of this airline's largest corporate partners, and you thought it was appropriate to question her integrity publicly, humiliate her." Kevin's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "I didn't know. That's the problem, isn't it?" Helen cut him off. "You assumed." Passengers nearby began to notice the confrontation, their whispers growing louder. Some even pulled out their phones, though Laura subtly gestured to Helen to discourage any public spectacle. Helen turned back to Laura. "Dr. Nelson, I assure you that this behavior is unacceptable and does not reflect our company's values." "I'll handle it immediately." Laura nodded. "I appreciate that, but it's not just about me. It's about ensuring this doesn't happen to anyone else, especially those who may not have the platform I do to fight back." Helen's eyes softened with understanding. Consider it handled, she said firmly. Helen turned to Kevin, her voice sharp. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending a full investigation. Hand over your ID and access badge. Kevin's face turned crimson, his hands trembling as he fumbled with his badge. Helen, this is ridiculous. This isn't up for debate, Helen snapped. Leave the premises before I have security escort you out. As Kevin slinked away, humiliated and silent, Helen gestured for Laura to follow her into the lounge. Inside, the staff scrambled to ensure everything was perfect, their nervous energy palpable. Laura took a seat by the window, gazing out at the runway. Thank you for your swift action, Helen, Laura said after a moment. But I still have one call to make. Helen tilted her head. Who's that? Laura's eyes glinted with determination. The airline CEO. I think it's time we discuss whether this partnership is worth maintaining. Helen's breath hitched, but she nodded. She knew that when Laura Nelson set her mind to something, the world shifted around her. As Laura dialed, her calm voice carried a weight that even the bustling terminal couldn't drown out. This was just the beginning of the storm, one that would leave the airline forever changed. Laura leaned back in her plush seat in the VIP lounge, her phone pressed to her ear. The view from the floor-to-ceiling windows revealed planes taxiing and taking off, their engines roaring against the backdrop of the bustling airport. But inside the lounge, a tense silence enveloped her. On the other end of the line was David Mason, the CEO of the airline. His voice, smooth yet cautious, betrayed an undercurrent of unease. Dr. Nelson, David began, his tone polite but tinged with worry. I just received a call from Helen. I understand there's been an incident. Lara's lips curved into a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. Incident is putting it lightly, Mr. Mason. Your airline's manager saw fit to humiliate me publicly, question my identity, and assume I didn't belong in first class, despite clear proof to the contrary. I assure you, this is not representative of our values, David said quickly. We take inclusivity and respect very seriously. Do you? Laura asked, her voice measured but sharp, because what happened today suggests otherwise. And let me remind you, Nelson Global Enterprises has been one of your largest corporate partners for years. This isn't just about me. It's about the message your staff sends to every passenger who walks through your doors. David hesitated, the weight of her words sinking in. You're absolutely right. I take full responsibility for what happened. Rest assured, the manager in question will face immediate disciplinary action, and we will conduct a thorough review of our staff training and policies. That's a start, Laura replied, her tone unwavering. But actions speak louder than words, Mr. Mason. I need more than promises. David cleared his throat, sensing the stakes. What can we do to make this right, Dr. Nelson? Your partnership is invaluable to us, and we deeply regret the situation. Lara's gaze drifted over the lounge, her mind racing with possibilities. She wasn't just thinking about herself. She was thinking about the countless others who might have faced similar discrimination without the platform or resources to fight back. I'll tell you what I expect, she began, her voice steady and authoritative. First, I want a public apology, not just to me, but to every passenger who has ever experienced discrimination on your flights. Second, I want a comprehensive overhaul of your staff training program. Implicit bias, cultural sensitivity, and customer service excellence should be mandatory for every employee, from entry-level to executive. David's silence on the other end told her she had hit a nerve. And third, Laura continued, leaning forward, I want your airline to establish a scholarship program for underprivileged students pursuing careers in aviation. Consider it a tangible commitment to building a more inclusive future. That's quite a list, David said after a pause, his tone careful. It's the bare minimum, Laura countered, her voice like steel. And if you're unwilling to meet these demands, Nelson Global Enterprises will sever all ties with your airline, effective immediately. I'll also make sure my experience today is shared with every Fortune 500 CEO I know. Believe me, the fallout won't be pretty. There was a long silence on the line, broken only by the faint hum of the lounge's air conditioning. Laura could almost hear David weighing his options, calculating the potential damage to the airline's reputation and bottom line. You drive a hard bargain, Dr. Nelson, he finally said, his voice tinged with resignation. But I understand where you're coming from. Consider it done. I'll expect a formal announcement by the end of the day, Laura said, her tone final. And Mr. Mason, if I don't see measurable progress within 6 months, this conversation will be very different next time. Understood, David replied. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to make this right. Laura ended the call without another word, her fingers tightening around the phone. The fight wasn't over, but she had taken the first step toward real change. As she slipped the phone into her bag, Laura noticed that the lounge staff had grown unusually quiet. Several employees, including the young woman named Susan, stood nearby, their expressions a mix of awe and admiration. One of them, a middle-aged man in a crisp uniform, stepped forward. Dr. Nelson, he said hesitantly, I just wanted to say thank you. What you're doing here, it's inspiring. People like Mr. Ford have gotten away with this kind of behavior for too long. Laura offered a small, gracious smile. Thank you, but it's not just about me. It's about creating a system where everyone is treated with respect. The man nodded, his eyes glistening with emotion. Around them, the staff and a few passengers who had overheard began to clap softly, their applause growing louder as others joined in. Laura felt a warmth spread through her chest, not from pride, but from the realization that her actions were already making an impact. Later that evening, as Laura boarded her flight, she noticed the palpable shift in the atmosphere. The crew greeted her with genuine warmth, their voices tinged with respect rather than obligation. The whispers of passengers around her carried admiration instead of judgment. As the plane ascended into the sky, Laura gazed out the window, the sprawling city below shrinking into a sea of lights. She knew this was just the beginning of a much larger journey, not just for her, but for every person who deserved better. Change wasn't easy, but Laura Nelson was no stranger to difficult battles, and this time, she was determined to win, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. The next morning, Laura woke to a flurry of notifications on her phone. Emails, texts, and calls poured in from colleagues, media outlets, and even strangers. Her experience at the airport had already begun to ripple beyond the terminal walls. Among the notifications was a message from Helen Jones, the airline's regional director. It contained a link to the company's official statement. With a measured breath, Laura tapped it open. Kevin Ford apologized for the discriminatory treatment and outlined immediate steps for policy reform, including mandatory training programs on implicit bias and cultural sensitivity. Laura's eyes scanned the final paragraph. As a company that values inclusivity and diversity, we recognize that words alone are not enough. Therefore, we are partnering with Dr. Laura Nelson to implement sustainable changes that reflect our commitment to respect and equality for all passengers. Her lips pressed into a thin line. It was a good start, but words, as she had told David Mason, would only go so far. She set her phone down and began drafting her next move. The morning sun cast long shadows across the sleek skyscraper that housed the global headquarters of Nelson Global Enterprises, NG. Inside the executive boardroom, the air was charged with purpose. The long mahogany table gleamed under the soft glow of recessed lights, and the panoramic windows offered a sweeping view of the city, a testament to the company's success. At the head of the table sat Dr. Laura Nelson, her posture commanding yet approachable. Around her, the members of the executive leadership team waited intently, sensing that today's meeting would set a new precedent. Laura's assistant, Lisa, stood by the door, ready to note any action items. The tension in the room wasn't born of fear, but of anticipation. They knew Laura well enough to understand that when she took a stand, it was never half-hearted. Laura began, her voice calm but resolute. As you all know, an incident occurred this week that brought to light not only the challenges we face as individuals, but also the responsibilities we carry as leaders. While the details have made headlines, this is not just about what happened to me. It's about what happens to countless others who face discrimination every day, often without the privilege or platform to fight back. The team nodded silently, their expressions reflecting both support and concern. Laura's gaze swept the room, meeting each person's eyes. She continued, Nelson Global Enterprises has always prided itself on being a force for positive change. Our core values integrity, innovation, and inclusion are not just words on a mission statement. They are the foundation of everything we do. And now, it's time to act. Laura turned to Lisa, who handed her a folder containing a series of proposals. She opened it and laid out the first page on the table for everyone to see. We will be reallocating a significant portion of our corporate social responsibility budget to establish the Wings of Equity initiative. This scholarship program, in partnership with SkyConnect Airlines, will provide financial support and mentorship for underprivileged students pursuing careers in aviation. Pilots, engineers, flight attendants, anyone with a dream to fly, but lacking the means will now have an opportunity. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. But this isn't just about scholarships. It's about representation. It's about changing the face of an industry that has historically excluded so many. We will oversee every aspect of this initiative to ensure transparency, effectiveness, and a tangible impact. One of the board members, Robert Lewis, leaned forward. This is ambitious, Dr. Nelson. Do we have a specific financial commitment in mind? Laura nodded. We do. Nelson Global Enterprises will match every dollar SkyConnect contributes. This is a long-term commitment, and we will allocate additional resources to ensure the program's success. Another board member, Sarah Green, raised her hand. What about the public-facing aspect? Are we prepared for the potential backlash from critics who might see this as overstepping? Laura smiled slightly. Criticism is inevitable, but our message must be clear. Nelson Global Enterprises stands for equality, and we will not shy away from taking bold action to back that commitment. This isn't about corporate branding. It's about doing what's right. And if anyone takes issue with that, they're welcome to find a company that shares their limited worldview. Lara's tone shifted, becoming more reflective. This initiative is just the beginning. The incident at the airport wasn't isolated. It's emblematic of systemic issues that persist across industries. Our role as leaders isn't just to react, but to proactively dismantle barriers. She gestured toward the screen at the end of the room, where a presentation titled, Expanding Equity Beyond Aviation appeared. I want NG to lead the charge in creating programs that promote diversity and inclusion across every sector we touch: technology, healthcare, finance. This isn't just about filling quotas. It's about ensuring that every voice has a seat at the table. The room buzzed with murmurs of agreement, and Laura could see the wheels turning in her colleagues' minds. She knew she had their buy-in, but this was more than an organizational initiative. It was personal. As the meeting concluded and the board members filed out, Laura remained seated, her hands folded in her lap. She gazed out the window, the city's skyline a mosaic of ambition and opportunity. Lisa lingered, sensing that Laura wasn't quite finished. Something on your mind? Lisa asked gently. Laura sighed softly. I keep thinking about the young people who will benefit from this program. Kids like Sarah, she said, referencing the email from the young woman who had been denied a flight attendant job. What if no one had spoken up for them? What if they never had a chance to pursue their dreams? Lisa smiled. They have you now, and that's more than most could ever hope for. Laura returned the smile, though her eyes remained thoughtful. This is bigger than me, Lisa. It's about leaving something behind that matters, a legacy of change. Lisa nodded and quietly left the room, leaving Laura alone with her thoughts. The skyline outside blurred slightly as she blinked back a wave of emotion. She had faced battles before, but this one felt different. It wasn't just about her. It was about rewriting the rules for everyone who came after her, and Laura Nelson was ready to lead that fight. Kevin Ford sat in his modest apartment, the muted glow of his tablet casting shadows on the walls. The news feed was relentless, each headline a sharp reminder of his disgrace. Airline manager suspended after allegations of discrimination against Black CEO. Fortune 500 leader calls out systemic bias in public showdown. Nelson Global Enterprises demands change after incident at SkyConnect Airlines. His name wasn't in every article, but it didn't need to be. Among those in his industry, Kevin Ford had become synonymous with the airline scandal. His face, captured in a candid shot by a passenger during the incident, was already circulating on social media. The smug expression he wore in the photo now mocked him as much as the scathing comments below it. He scrolled through them, unable to stop himself. This guy thought he was untouchable. Good riddance. I hope he never works in customer service again. How many other passengers has he treated like this? Kevin's chest tightened as he tossed the tablet onto the couch. The buzz of his phone interrupted his spiraling thoughts. He glanced at the screen. It was his supervisor. He hesitated, but answered. Kevin, the voice on the other end began, sharp and devoid of the usual collegial tone. The disciplinary panel has reviewed the incident. Effective immediately, your employment with SkyConnect Airlines is terminated. Kevin swallowed hard, the words hitting like a gut punch. Can I at least explain? There's nothing to explain. The supervisor cut him off. Your actions have caused irreparable damage to the company's reputation. We'll send your final paycheck and severance details by mail. Goodbye. The line went dead. Kevin stared at the phone, his hand trembling. For the first time in years, Kevin Ford found himself utterly alone. His colleagues, the ones who used to join him for after-work drinks or offer pats on the back for a job well done, had gone silent. No texts, no calls, not even a perfunctory check-in. His family, though distant, had also heard the news. His younger sister had left a voicemail earlier in the day. He hadn't mustered the courage to listen to it yet. His parents, retired and living in a quiet suburb, had always been proud of his managerial position at the airline. Now, he dreaded their reaction. Kevin paced his small living room, replaying the events at the airport in his mind. At first, he tried to justify his actions. I was following protocol. I was doing my job. But as the hours stretched into days, the cracks in his self-defense began to widen. He couldn't escape Laura Nelson's voice, calm yet piercing. Her words echoed in his memory. Not what, Mr. Ford? People who look like me. The way she had stood her ground, unshaken by his authority, had been unnerving. At the time, it had felt like defiance. Now, he realized it was dignity, a dignity he had tried to strip away. Kevin's name soon appeared on industry forums, his reputation preceding him wherever he turned. A quick Google search of his name yielded countless results tied to the incident. He tried reaching out to former colleagues for references, only to receive polite rejections or, worse, complete silence. His savings dwindled as weeks turned into months without a job. The weight of his actions grew heavier with each passing day. He avoided public places, fearing the possibility of being recognized, and the isolation gnawed at him. In the quiet of his apartment, Kevin began to confront the harsh truth he had avoided for so long. He had allowed prejudice to dictate his actions. He had used his position of power to assert dominance, not realizing the profound harm it could inflict. One evening, Kevin sat at his kitchen table, a cup of untouched coffee growing cold beside him. He stared at a blank sheet of paper, a pen in his hand. He had decided to write to Laura Nelson, not out of desperation, but because he needed to acknowledge the harm he had caused. The words came slowly at first, each line written with a mix of shame and resolve. Dr. Nelson, I owe you an apology, though I know words alone cannot undo what I've done. My actions were rooted in ignorance and arrogance, and I failed to see the damage I was causing, not just to you, but to the principles of respect and equality that should guide all of us. I have spent these past months reflecting on the incident, and I am ashamed of how I treated you. I know that my behavior was not only unprofessional, but also harmful on a much deeper level. Seeing how you have transformed this experience into a movement for change has opened my eyes to the power of resilience and leadership. If there is any way I can contribute to the positive work you are doing, whether through the scholarship program or any other initiative, I am willing to do so. I understand that trust must be earned, and I am prepared to take any steps necessary to demonstrate my sincerity. Sincerely, Kevin Ford. Kevin folded the letter and set it aside. He didn't know if Laura would ever read it, let alone respond. But writing it was the first step in what he hoped would be a long journey toward redemption. He also began volunteering at a local community center, helping underprivileged youth with career coaching. It was a small way to start giving back, to use his experience to help others avoid the pitfalls he had fallen into. Though the path ahead was uncertain, Kevin Clark resolved to face it with humility. For the first time in years, he wasn't focused on climbing a corporate ladder or wielding authority. Instead, he was focused on rebuilding himself into someone he could be proud of. The incident at the airport had been a turning point, not just for Laura Nelson and the airline, but for Kevin himself. His fall from grace had been swift and brutal, but it had also been necessary. It stripped away the veneer of power and privilege, forcing him to confront the man he truly was. Whether he would rise again was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Kevin Ford's fall was a reckoning, and what came next would depend entirely on how he chose to rise. Kevin spent the following weeks attempting to rebuild his life. While the volunteer work at the community center provided a sense of purpose, it didn't erase the growing weight of his circumstances. His financial situation was dire. His severance pay was running out, and every job application was met with either silence or polite rejection. But in those quiet hours at the center, something began to shift. Kevin found himself drawn to the stories of the young people he was mentoring, stories of resilience in the face of adversity, of determination to rise above circumstances far more challenging than his own. It humbled him, showing him a path forward that didn't involve regaining his old power, but rather using what he had left to uplift others. One evening, as Kevin was returning home from the center, he found a plain white envelope waiting in his mailbox. His name was written on the front in neat, precise handwriting. He hesitated before opening it, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. Inside was a single sheet of paper bearing the letterhead of Nelson Global Enterprises. Mr. Ford, thank you for reaching out and for your willingness to reflect on your actions. While I cannot erase the harm caused by our encounter, I believe that people are capable of change when they confront their shortcomings with sincerity. I appreciate your offer to contribute to the Wings of Equity initiative. If you are genuine in your desire to make amends, there is a role for you not as a leader, but as a participant in creating change from the ground up. Our program works with underprivileged students to provide mentorship, guidance, and pathways into aviation. Your industry experience, coupled with your newfound perspective, could serve as a valuable asset in helping others achieve their dreams. Redemption is not a guarantee, it is a journey. If you are ready to walk that path, I invite you to begin with us. Sincerely, Dr. Laura Nelson. Kevin reread the letter several times, his emotions a tangled mix of relief, gratitude, and trepidation. Laura hadn't absolved him. She had offered him a chance to prove himself, to contribute to the very cause he had once undermined. The following week, Kevin arrived at the Wings of Equity Initiative's office. The building was a hub of activity, filled with young people buzzing with excitement as they prepared for their training programs. Kevin felt a pang of nervousness as he entered, unsure of how he would be received. Laura was there, speaking with a group of students. When she saw Kevin, she gave a small nod, not warm, but not cold either. It was an acknowledgement, a silent reminder that this was his opportunity to rebuild, not a place for excuses or self-pity. He was introduced to his role, mentoring students interested in aviation operations, sharing his knowledge of the industry while also listening to their experiences. It was humbling work, but Kevin found it fulfilling in a way his previous job had never been. One student, Mark Reed, stood out, a young man with a passion for logistics, but limited resources to pursue his dream. Kevin saw a reflection of his younger self in Mark, though with a key difference. Mark carried a kindness and determination that Kevin had long forgotten in his climb up the corporate ladder. Over time, Mark and Kevin formed a bond. Mark's questions about navigating the aviation industry forced Kevin to reflect on his own journey, the mistakes, the arrogance, and the moments of lost humanity. Helping Mark find a path forward gave Kevin a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Months later, during a ceremony for the first group of scholarship recipients, Kevin found himself standing at the back of the room, watching Laura address the crowd. She spoke with the same grace and conviction he remembered from the airport, her words resonating with everyone in attendance. After the event, Laura approached Kevin. "I've been hearing good things about your work with the students," she said, her tone measured but not unfriendly. Kevin nodded. "Thank you for giving me this chance, Dr. Nelson. It's been eye-opening." Laura studied him for a moment before speaking. "Redemption isn't about erasing the past, Kevin. It's about what you choose to do with it. Keep walking the path." Her words lingered with him long after she walked away. For the first time, Kevin felt a glimmer of hope, not just for his career, but for the person he was becoming. Over the next year, Kevin dedicated himself fully to the Wings of Equity initiative. He became an advocate for its mission, not as a figurehead, but as someone working quietly behind the scenes to make meaningful change. His work with the students, particularly Mark, reminded him of the values he had once lost sight of. When Mark graduated from the program and landed his first internship with a major airline, he invited Kevin to the celebration. As Kevin watched Mark's family beam with pride, he realized that this was his true legacy, not the titles or accolades he had once chased, but the lives he could impact moving forward. Kevin Ford's fall had been devastating, but it had also been transformative. The man who once stood at the center of a public scandal had learned to step aside, to let others take the spotlight, while he worked to lift them higher. He knew he could never undo the past, but he had found a way to use it as a foundation for something better. Laura Nelson had given him a chance, not forgiveness, but an opportunity to earn it through action, and in that chance, Kevin discovered something he had lost long ago: humility, purpose, and the understanding that true leadership lies in service to others. And so, this story isn't just about a man's fall or a woman's fight for justice. It's about the power of change, the ripple effect of standing up for what's right, and the hope that even in the face of failure, redemption is possible. It's a reminder that every action, big or small, can leave a lasting impact. If this story moved you or made you think, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to light and inspires us to keep sharing these powerful journeys. Hit that notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay inspired.